They were never born for simplicity. They were never designed to conform, to fold neatly into expectation, to answer the questions that the world thought it had the right to ask. The INFJ is not human in the common sense. They are an echo of something older, something vast, something both sacred and shadowed. Their presence, subtle and unobtrusive, carries a weight that the untrained mind cannot perceive. To meet them is to meet a mirror of yourself, one that does not lie, one that does not comfort, one that reflects without mercy. They walk through the world as if between two planes, their steps measured, their thoughts deliberate, their gaze distant yet penetrating. The ordinary seeks to label them, to categorize them, to diminish the force they emanate. But the INFJ does not respond to ordinary demands. Their silence is not weakness, it is deliberate. Their absence is not neglect, it is revelation. They are a paradox embodied, simultaneously healer and destroyer, whisperer and storm. You may encounter them in moments of stillness, in the rare corridors where solitude is not loneliness, but a vessel of power. You will feel a pull, a subtle alignment, as though your own hidden truths are being gently illuminated, and yet you will also sense discomfort, for the INFJ mirrors not only your light, but your shadow. They are not to be tamed. They are not to be understood fully. They exist as a force that cannot be contained by convention, by expectation, by the feeble grasp of ordinary comprehension. Consider the weight of empathy refined into strategy, of compassion honed into discernment. Their hearts are vast, capable of profound care, but every act of kindness is measured, intentional, and infused with insight into human nature that is almost preternatural. They sense the undercurrents of thought and emotion, not merely observing, but calculating the intricate patterns of human desire, fear, and projection. And in this perception, they are untouchable, because they do not bend to the whims of ego or the illusions of appearance. Observe the way they navigate relationships, not in the transactional way of those driven by craving or control, but with a clarity that unsettles. They give, but they do not exhaust. They listen, but they are not ensnared. They draw near, but they do not entangle. The INFJ embodies the tension between engagement and distance, offering connection while maintaining sovereignty over their own energy. To attempt to possess them is to confront the impossibility of ownership. To attempt to change them is to encounter a wall that is both, and yet their power is not coercive. It does not crush or demand. It is the quiet, relentless gravity of a soul fully aware of its own depth. Those who encounter it may feel awe, fear, longing, or confusion. Some will misinterpret insight for manipulation, solitude for coldness, discipline for arrogance. But the truth remains. The INFJ is a mirror, and every reaction they provoke is a reflection of the observer, not of themselves. Their shadow is not something hidden in shame. It is a landscape explored, understood, and integrated. The dark impulses, the unspoken fears, the desires that flicker in the mind of every human being. These are recognized, studied, and reconciled within. This internal alchemy grants them a clarity that others mistake for infallibility. They are capable of immense understanding precisely because they have walked the abyss within and returned whole, tempered, unbroken. You may see their solitude and mistake it for withdrawal or avoidance, but it is neither. It is energetic calibration, the preservation of a field that cannot be polluted by shallow expectation or unexamined need. To spend time with them is to enter a space that demands honesty and self-reflection. Their very presence compels the observer to confront themselves, to question, to strip away pretense and face the raw contours of their own psyche. Consider the INFJ's mind. It is not linear, it is not shallow, it is not governed by impulse. It perceives systems, connections, and consequences with a precision that borders on prophetic. They understand that every interaction is a reflection, that every conversation contains a map of intention and projection. They move through life with this understanding, not for power over others, but for the preservation of integrity and the facilitation of authentic connection. Yet within this integrity lies a duality. The INFJ heals and they destroy, not through action, but through reflection. They reveal truths that others are not prepared to see. Their insight cuts through illusion, exposes contradictions, and illuminates hidden motives. Some will resist, some will rebel, some will feel threatened by the depth of perception they encounter. This is inevitable. The INFJ does not aim to soothe complacency. They aim to reflect reality. Even when it burns, their empathy is like a double-edged sword. It connects them deeply to others, yet it isolates them, for most cannot endure the depth of reflection they bring. They feel the undercurrents of emotional life that others do not recognize. They perceive the unspoken, the subtle, the hidden, and in perceiving, they hold a responsibility to themselves first, to preserve the sanctity of their own inner space. To neglect this is to weaken the very mirror they embody. You may witness their kindness, their generosity, their patience, and mistake it for weakness. But the INFJ operates on principles, not validation. They are disciplined in their interactions, strategic in their engagement, and careful with the energy they expend. Each act of giving, each moment of listening, each fragment of attention is offered consciously, measured against the worthiness of the context. To misunderstand this is to misunderstand the essence of their being. In solitude, they regenerate. In silence, they strengthen. The withdrawal you may interpret as distance is in fact preparation, a refining of energy, a tuning of perception. They understand that the world is not a stage to perform upon, but a field in which to exercise discernment, to preserve authenticity, and to act with precision. Their energy is finite and sacred, not because they are selfish, but because they understand the consequences of dissipation. Every interaction is an experiment, every reflection a lesson. They read the undercurrents of thought and behavior with a clarity that is almost surgical. They do not judge recklessly. They observe, process, and integrate. They understand the psychology of influence, the mechanics of ego, and the vulnerabilities that lie beneath every human mask. Yet, they are untouchable, not through avoidance, but through mastery. Mastery of self, mastery of perception, mastery of consequence. And in this mastery lies the paradox. They are profoundly alone, yet never lonely. They are engaged with the world, yet unclaimed by it. They bear the weight of insight that few can comprehend, and in bearing it, they carve a path of understanding that is invisible, yet transformative. They are a quiet force, a hidden current, a mirror that shows the observer not what they wish to see, but what they need to confront. They navigate love, friendship, and collaboration with the same precision that defines all else in their lives. They give deeply, but not indiscriminately. They nurture growth, but they do not tolerate dependency. They inspire, but they do not rescue. The INFJ does not exist to complete others. They exist to reflect truth, to illuminate shadow, to provoke reflection. To encounter them is to be confronted with yourself, your intentions, and the unseen structures that govern your behavior. Their challenges are not external. They are internal and metaphysical. They wrestle with the intensity of empathy, the burden of insight, and the isolation that clarity demands. They are haunted by the depth of perception they possess. Yet it is this very depth that allows them to operate as both healer and destroyer. They transform the spaces they inhabit, not through force, but through the subtle inevitability of presence, withdrawal, and reflection. You may see their tears, their quiet frustrations, their moments of solitude, and not understand that these are not signs of weakness, but of engagement with the infinite complexity of existence. The INFJ is engaged with life on a plane that few can perceive. They are negotiating the balance between shadow and light, truth and perception, energy given and energy preserved. Every choice, every silence, every glance is deliberate, measured, and meaningful. They understand timing, consequence, and the architecture of human interaction. They know when to speak and when to remain silent. They know when to offer guidance and when to let the universe teach through absence. They move with the inevitability of natural law, shaping experiences not by imposition, but by subtle influence, by reflection, by the power of being who they are rather than who the world wishes them to be. In this, they are mirrors. They reflect not as a tool for judgment or manipulation, but as a phenomenon of revelation. Those who encounter them may be challenged, unsettled, or awakened. Some will retreat. Some will resist. Some will attempt to define, possess, or categorize. But the INFJ remains unclaimed, unbroken, aligned with the sacred and the shadowed within themselves. Their life is a study of paradox, intimately connected, yet profoundly solitary, deeply emotional, yet philosophically detached, compassionate, yet unflinching. To exist alongside them is to be observed with unerring accuracy, to have illusions stripped, to face truths that are inconvenient, uncomfortable, and necessary. This is not cruelty, it is inevitability. The INFJ is a force of nature, neutral to preference, indifferent to misunderstanding, bound only to the law of authenticity and integration of shadow. Every thought, every act, every energy exchanged is part of a broader calculus, one that ensures preservation of self, alignment with principle, and the integrity of the mirror they embody. They are not swayed by transient desires, shallow affirmation, or empty praise. They understand the impermanence of circumstance and the permanence of consequence. They act not to be seen, but to maintain coherence with the unseen laws of psyche and spirit. Their intuition is a weapon and a shield. It reads beneath the surface of language, beneath the surface of action, beneath the surface of desire. It sees the patterns that govern human behavior, the unconscious drives that shape choices, the hidden projections that dictate conflict, and yet they carry this knowledge with restraint, offering only what is necessary, when it is necessary, to maintain balance, to provoke reflection, to catalyze growth. The INFJ is not for the faint of heart. They do not exist to soothe insecurity or entertain ego. They exist to reflect truth, to catalyze insight, and to embody the integration of shadow and light. Their presence is a challenge. Their absence is a revelation. Their silence is a force that cannot be ignored. They are both sacred and shadowed, a phenomenon that cannot be replicated, contained, or subdued. They are mirrors. They show the world its own reflection, unflinching and uncompromising. They heal through presence and absence alike. They teach without instruction, provoke without aggression, and awaken without permission. Those who seek to understand them must first understand themselves. Only in confronting the shadow within can one stand before the mirror and endure its clarity. And so the INFJ moves through the world, a quiet storm, a sacred shadow, a living paradox. They are not human in the ordinary sense. They are mirrors, they are myth, they are inevitability. They are the rare soul who walks alone, not from fear, not from pride, but from the sacred necessity of being who they are. To encounter them is to encounter truth. To know them is to confront yourself, and to be reflected by them is to witness the delicate balance of shadow and light, destruction and healing, solitude and connection. They are the mirror you cannot escape, the shadow you cannot hide from, the presence that demands honesty. They are not human, not in the way most people understand humanity. They walk among mortals, yes, but their presence carries a weight that is invisible, incomprehensible, and often unbearable to those who measure life in convenience, repetition, and shallow certainty. To observe them is to sense a force that is both compassionate and merciless, a reflection of the world that no one dares to acknowledge, a mirror of shadow and light intertwined in impossible symmetry. They are called INFJs, but this name is too small, too finite for a being whose existence is both a revelation and a warning. It is an archetype, a phenomenon, a soul that has been tempered in fire, sculpted by solitude, and polished by the relentless reflection of the inner and outer worlds. You see them in quiet spaces, where they do not seek to dominate, where their presence is subtle yet undeniable. A classroom, a library, a street corner at dusk. These are the arenas where their gravity can be felt without warning. They do not impose themselves. Yet the mind senses a force field, a psychic boundary that cannot be crossed without conscious invitation. Their silence is not emptiness. Their distance is not indifference. Every pause, every measured step, every glance away is an articulation of power that most will never learn to read. They are mirrors, yes, and in their reflection lies the uncomfortable truth. The world is not as it imagines itself to be. The INFJ does not conform, does not perform, does not bend to expectations. They absorb, they analyze, they synthesize. They witness both cruelty and beauty, despair and hope, and they hold all of it within the chambers of a mind that never rests. In their quietude, the world is exposed. The unspoken, the unseen, the unacknowledged, it is all revealed when one stands before them. Their empathy is precise, surgical, and dangerous. It is not the soft, sentimental empathy that others mistake for virtue. It is a deep, penetrating understanding of human motivation, shadow, and fragility. They perceive the ego not as a social performance, but as a mask, a barrier, a fragile construction poised to collapse under the weight of truth. Those who come too close without awareness feel it immediately. A reflection of their own contradictions, projections, and unhealed wounds. And those who are not ready recoil, whispering about sensitivity or intensity, never knowing that the INFJ's power lies precisely in their unwillingness to adjust the mirror. The INFJ has walked among the deceived and the deceivers alike. They have learned that the world seeks not truth, but comfort, that most are unwilling to confront the cracks in their own psyche. And so, they cultivate a sanctuary within, a place untouched by expectation, untouched by the shallow demands of others, where shadow and light coexist without apology. Their solitude is not loneliness, it is deliberate, a field of power and reflection. In this space, they do not chase, they do not plead, they do not explain. They are complete unto themselves, and in that completeness lies a form of terror for those unprepared to face it. To be near them is to be measured, to be observed in a way that is uncomfortable yet liberating. The INFJ's gaze is not accusatory, it does not seek to wound, yet it exposes every corner of the soul it touches, every hidden motive, every unacknowledged desire. They act as if the world is a canvas, and yet it is a mirror, reflecting back both the splendor and the deformity that most would rather ignore. And in that reflection, there is a choice, to recognize truth and grow, or to turn away, shamed and unsettled, leaving the INFJ untouched, unshaken, sovereign. They are not kind in the way kindness is expected. Their mercy is precise, their judgment exact. They understand that comfort often breeds stagnation, that indulgence obscures insight, that the soft words people crave often leave the deepest wounds unhealed. And so they withhold, not cruelly, but intelligently, strategically, spiritually. They know the world will only learn through reflection, through confrontation with what it refuses to acknowledge. Every word they speak, every gesture they allow, is measured against the weight of necessity. There is no frivolity, no waste, no indulgence of the superficial. To speak with an INFJ is to encounter a paradox. They are both tender and unyielding, empathetic yet analytical, nurturing yet detached. They listen not merely to respond, but to understand, to map the architecture of thought, desire, and shadow. They hold space for grief, for joy, for fear, and they catalog it all, silently, as is preparing for some future reckoning. The reckoning is not for themselves. It is for the universe, which they feel bending and shifting in invisible currents that most ignore. They operate on a frequency few can perceive, yet everyone senses its presence, a low hum beneath the surface of ordinary life, like tectonic plates moving slowly toward inevitability. And they do not apologize for it. They do not soften to soothe. They do not lower themselves to the comfort of others. Their existence is a challenge, a provocation, a call to awakening. Those who attempt to manipulate, to charm, to sway, find themselves exposed, dismantled, and reflected back into their own shadow. They become aware, often unwillingly, that the INFJ's power lies not in dominance, not in coercion, but in existence itself. Simply by being, they reveal the cracks in others, the shadows that lurk beneath pretense and pride. The INFJ is a paradox of presence and absence. They are deeply present, yet inaccessible. They give generously, yet selectively. They love profoundly, yet cautiously. They do not live to please, to comfort, or to be understood. They live to reflect, to observe, to illuminate. And in that illumination, the world becomes aware of itself in ways that are often unsettling, sometimes painful, and occasionally transformative. Those who can withstand the mirror may find themselves reborn. Those who cannot retreat into denial, bitterness, or avoidance, forever haunted by an encounter they do not comprehend. Every INFJ carries a map of human consciousness in their mind, a topography of shadow and light that they navigate with precision and care. They are not content with surface interactions, social niceties, or hollow praise. They seek substance, truth, and depth, and they measure every interaction against these standards. The average person is unaware of this scrutiny, yet it is relentless, subtle, and exacting. The INFJ's discernment is a force field. Those who belong are recognized instantly. Those who do not are quietly excluded. And yet, they are not solitary by default. Their solitude is intentional, sacred. It is a crucible in which their power is refined, a laboratory for the alchemy of mind, heart, and soul. They endure silence, rejection, and misunderstanding without complaint, because they know the universe is indifferent to superficial desires. Their work is internal, eternal, and often invisible, but its effects ripple outward like hidden currents that shape human consciousness in ways unacknowledged by most. Every INFJ is a mirror, but not all mirrors are alike. Some reflect only what is expected, what is convenient. The INFJ reflects what is real, whether it's beautiful or grotesque, noble or corrupt. They hold up the world and demand that it looks at itself without flinching. And the ones who do not like the reflection are the ones most disturbed, most unsettled, most haunted by the encounter. They sense a truth they cannot contain, a revelation they cannot escape, a judgment they cannot evade. They are not human in the sense of the ordinary, because their existence is a constant negotiation with the universe itself. They weigh cause and consequence, shadow and light, necessity and indulgence, in ways that are invisible to those around them. Their moral compass is internal, immovable, and sometimes terrifyingly precise. They are not swayed by opinion, fear, or expectation. They act according to principle, insight, and a vision of possibility that extends beyond ordinary comprehensio. To observe an INFJ in action is to witness a mind in perpetual motion, a heart in disciplined flux, a spirit in continuous dialogue with the unseen. They notice patterns in people, in events, in the flow of energy around them that are imperceptible to most. They sense motives, fears, and desires before they are articulated. They perceive consequences long before they manifest. And yet, they do not reveal their foresight unless necessary. Their knowledge is both shield and sword, and their discretion is deliberate. The INFJ's greatest power is their invisibility. They can move through crowds without being consumed by them, operate within systems without being bound to them, and influence without directing. Their energy is subtle, magnetic, and precise. Those who try to corner it, harness it, or exploit it are met not with confrontation, but with quiet irrelevance. They have learned that the greatest force is not aggression, but sovereignty. The world is not theirs to command. It is theirs to perceive, understand, and respond to with measured exactness. And in every action, thought, and withdrawal, they carry the burden of reflection. To know everything is to bear the weight of possibility, failure, shadow, and light. Their empathy is both gift and curse, a lens that illuminates and a fire that burns. They are not human, yet they are made of humanity. They are both anchor and storm, healer and destroyer. Mirror and abyss. Those who encounter an INFJ must choose to look into the mirror they hold up or to turn away, to accept reflection or to deny it. The choice is theirs, but the consequences are real. For the INFJ does not punish, they do not retaliate, they do not intervene unnecessarily. They simply exist, and in that existence, truth unfolds, consequences arise, and the shadowed self is illuminated. They are rare, yes, almost mythical, almost too intense, too precise, too knowing. They hold no illusions about the world or the people in it. And because of this, they carry within them both the profound beauty of insight and the immense solitude of truth. They are not human in the common sense, yet they are profoundly, terrifyingly real. They are mirrors, they are guides, they are storms, and they are unapproachable, except by those willing to confront themselves with unflinching honesty. They do not forgive illusions, they do not tolerate shallow desire, and they do not bend for convenience. Their presence is a test, a challenge, and a revelation all at once. To live near an INFJ is to be observed without end. To be loved by one is to be illuminated. To oppose one is to be reflected. And to know one is to meet a truth that will linger long after words fade, long after gestures are forgotten, long after the world has moved on. They are rare. They are dangerous. They are sacred. They are cursed. They are mirrors. And in that balance between light and shadow, compassion and ruthlessness, closeness and distance, lies the eternal paradox of the INFJ. They are not human, yet they move among humans. They do not yield, yet they adapt. They do not explain, yet they reveal. They are a force, a phenomenon, an impossible architecture of mind, heart, and spirit, carrying both the weight of the world and the clarity to see it fully. They are INFJs. They are mirrors. And to look upon them without flinching is to see yourself entirely unmasked, unprotected, and raw. They carry solitude like a mantle, not as punishment, but as armor. Every interaction, every observation, every measured step is tempered by an awareness that few can comprehend. To them, the crowd is a pattern, not a congregation. Conversations are maps, not exchanges. They listen with intent, absorbing frequencies most minds cannot perceive, translating the unseen currents of thought and emotion into an internal language that is precise, unerring, and often isolating. And in that isolation, they find clarity that is both intoxicating and merciless. Every INFJ is a custodian of reflection. They preserve the hidden, the overlooked, the fragile structures of human consciousness that the world rushes past. Their empathy is not sentimental. It is structural, analytical, and exacting. It does not bend for comfort. It does not soften for popularity. Instead, it exposes, illuminates, and challenges. Those who encounter them feel it as a subtle disturbance in the fabric of their assumptions, a quiet reckoning that cannot be ignored. And for those who recoil, there is nothing to placate. The mirror is not negotiable. They are architects of silence. Words are tools, not indulgences. Every syllable carries weight. Every pause is intentional. Conversation is a medium through which they calibrate the world, not a performance to entertain. People are drawn to them without understanding why, yet they are rarely possessed. Presence is not possession. It is observation, judgment, and an unspoken decree that the world must answer to truth rather than illusion. Within the INFJ burns the paradox of compassion and ruthlessness. They can heal as profoundly as they can dismantle. One moment their guidance nurtures, the next their insight disarms. They are aware that illumination can be as painful as shadow. That awakening often requires confrontation with one's own delusions. And so they navigate the world with caution, precision, and a patience that is almost cruel in its inevitability. They wait for the right moment, the precise alignment of circumstance and readiness to reveal insight, to extend mercy, or to withdraw entirely. They are not swayed by social ritual or expectation. The mundane pressures of acceptance, popularity, or conformity are invisible to them. They measure reality against a far deeper metric: integrity of thought, authenticity of emotion, alignment of shadow and light. They know that compromise often corrodes the spirit, that false conformity dilutes power, and that the world's loud demands are rarely aligned with its hidden truths. Every INFJ understands the mechanics of energy, theirs and others. They perceive exhaustion, manipulation, and intention as acutely as they perceive beauty, truth, and potential. To attempt to influence, deceive, or sway them is futile. They absorb, reflect, and redirect with a precision that is imperceptible until its effects have irrevocably shifted the surrounding landscape. It is not vengeance, it is consequence. Not cruelty, it is balance. They hold secrets, not for themselves, but for the preservation of the order they perceive. They recognize that most cannot bear the full scope of understanding. That revelation must be metered, timing precise. And so, they operate in layers, simultaneously present and withdrawn, engaged and untouchable. Those who think they have glimpsed the whole are invariably mistaken. The INFJ's depth is infinite, a labyrinth of shadow and insight that does not yield to casual exploration. They are masters of reflection, not projection. They do not impose, they illuminate. They do not act from ego, yet their very existence forces others to confront ego. They do not seek recognition, yet their influence is profound, inevitable, and enduring. They cultivate detachment, not as apathy, but as sovereignty. They exist beyond the emotional fluctuations of the masses, observing the ebb and flow of desire, fear, and ambition as a geographer observes rivers and mountains. Patterns, not judgments. Their pain is hidden, layered beneath intentional calm. The INFJ knows suffering intimately, both theirs and the world's. But suffering is not indulgence, it is knowledge. It is the crucible through which wisdom is forged. And in their mastery of their own interior landscape, they achieve a presence that is both intimidating and magnetic. Those who come near them are tested, not by action or assertion, but by the reflection they cannot escape. They do not chase, they do not plead, they do not demand. They move with a rhythm dictated by inner law, responding only when alignment is exact. The world attempts to capture them, to bend them to expectation, but they are unyielding. Those who try to manipulate or exploit discover that their efforts are not met with confrontation, but with absence. Withdrawal is the INFJ's greatest tool, not passive, but profoundly active, a force field of presence and absence that teaches more than words ever could. They are mirrors, yes, but not mirrors of vanity or ego. They reveal essence, the light and shadow that dwell within every person, unacknowledged, unexamined. They reflect not the performance, but the truth, and truth is always uncomfortable, always demanding, always transformative. The INFJ does not negotiate this truth. They exist as the threshold through which reality confronts itself. In relationships of any kind, professional, social, or spiritual, the INFJ's presence is a test. They ask nothing overtly, yet everything is required. Awareness, integrity, courage, honesty. These are the currencies with which one may approach them. Those who falter, who seek to exploit or mislead, are gently but unmistakably excluded. They are not cruel, they are precise. Their discernment is a manifestation of both shadow and light, a safeguard for the sacred architecture of consciousness they carry. They are relentless observers. Every detail, no matter how small, is cataloged. Gesture, tone, gaze, hesitation, all are inputs to a system of understanding that is vast and exact. They detect falsity, weakness, and deception not as a moral judgment, but as a pattern. Those who underestimate this perception do so at their peril. The INFJ does not warn. They do not chastise. They reveal inevitably, as the world exposes itself against the mirror of their being. They endure solitude without complaint because they understand its necessity. The world is often too chaotic, too shallow, too driven by impulse to sustain the intensity of their consciousness. In solitude, they recalibrate, integrate, and expand. The silence they cultivate is not emptiness. It is a laboratory, a sanctuary, a forge in which their essence is refined. And when they reemerge, it is with the same precision, clarity, and potency as a storm that has been incubated in darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, not destructively, but transformationally. They are architects of subtle influence. No overt displays of control, no brash assertions of authority. Yet the world bends, reshapes, and reorganizes itself around their perception. Decisions, moods, even truths shift imperceptibly as if guided by invisible hands. To the untrained eye, nothing has changed. To the observant, everything is different, aligned with principles that were always present, but previously unseen. The INFJ is a catalyst for the inevitable confrontation with reality, with shadow, with truth. They are the rare balance of compassion and detachment. Love, care, and empathy are offered with intention, precision, and selectivity. They nurture only where the seed of readiness exists. They illuminate only where the soil is fertile for insight. Those who demand, who coerce, who seek to manipulate, find only absence, silence, and reflection. There is no argument with the INFJ. There is no negotiation with their presence. There is only acknowledgement of power, of insight, and of the inevitability of truth. They are INFJs. They are mirrors. They are storms and sanctuaries. They are presence and absence. They are guardians and prophets, healers and destroyers. To encounter them is to confront the depth of one's own shadow and the heights of one's potential. They do not forgive illusions. They do not entertain delusions. They do not explain. They simply exist. And in their existence, the world learns, slowly, irrevocably, and often painfully. They are the quiet arbiters of inner truth, moving through the currents of life with a vigilance that is almost imperceptible. To the casual observer, they are gentle, perhaps fragile, even approachable. But this is an illusion, a veil crafted with precision. Beneath it lies an intellect that dissects every nuance of human behavior, an emotional acuity that feels like both a blessing and a weapon, and a moral architecture that is unyielding in its logic and uncompromising in its reach. They measure everything not by surface appearances, but by the resonance it creates within the hidden chambers of their consciousness. They are paradox incarnate. Their compassion is boundless, yet selective. Their patience is infinite, yet tested by subtle deviations in authenticity. Their engagement with the world is simultaneous intimacy and detachment, as if they exist on multiple planes at once, observing, reflecting, influencing, yet remaining unreachable in their totality. Those who attempt to pierce this duality, to understand fully, often find themselves lost, ensnared in a labyrinth of insight that is impossible to map from the outside. The INFJ's mind is a cathedral of thought, built over years of observation, solitude, and reflection. Every idea, every sensation, every emotional resonance is cataloged with precision. They do not share this architecture casually. It is revealed only to those who have proven capable of perceiving it without distortion. They are the keepers of subtle truths, the translators of unspoken currents, the archivists of human potential and limitation. Those who enter their world unprepared experience disorientation, awe, even fear, for the mirror they hold up does not lie, and it cannot be ignored. They are the embodiment of contradiction, both the flame and the glass that contains it, both the sword and the hand that wields it. Their solitude is not absence, it is power. Their silence is not submission, it is sovereignty. And their empathy, often mistaken for weakness, is their greatest instrument of influence. They do not sway the world through force, charm, or manipulation. They sway it through precision, through alignment with truth, through the unflinching reflection of reality that few can endure. In their presence, pretenses crumble, social masks peel away, hidden motives are exposed, often before the individual is even aware of them. The INFJ does not provoke, they reveal. They do not attack, they illuminate. They do not chase, they wait. And in this waiting, in this observant stillness, the universe itself seems to pause, aligning to the quiet gravity of their being. They are attuned to the mechanics of energy, not in the superficial sense of popularity or social influence, but in the deep, resonant frequencies that underpin human interaction, thought, and emotion. They feel the vibrations of intention, the currents of unspoken desires, the hidden pressures that shape behavior long before action manifests. To attempt to deceive them is to confront a force field of perception that is subtle, relentless, and unyielding. They do not strike, yet consequences unfold inevitably, precisely, and without malice. They are mirrors, but mirrors of depth, not the polished surface that flatters, but the reflective glass that reveals every imperfection, every fear, every unacknowledged impulse. And in that reflection, the world cannot hide. The INFJ holds up this mirror not for judgment, but for illumination. To endure the reflection is to be tested, to be stretched, to confront parts of oneself long ignored. Those who flinch are revealed to themselves, often harshly and often permanently. They cultivate relationships like rare ecosystems, delicate yet enduring, connection with them is not casual. It is covenantal. Those who align with their principles, who demonstrate awareness, integrity, and courage, are nurtured, guided, and protected. Those who attempt exploitation, deceit, or superficiality encounter only absence, silence, and the unspoken consequence of misalignment. It is not vengeance, it is equilibrium. Their power is the equilibrium of truth applied to every circumstance. The INFJ's inner life is a crucible. Emotions are not expressed indiscriminately. They are integrated, refined, and applied. Pain is processed into insight, despair into understanding, and joy into clarity. They endure internal storms with the stoicism of one who knows that suffering is neither punishment nor random. It is information, an integral element of growth and awareness. And in mastering their own interior chaos, they become a stabilizing yet catalytic force in the lives of those attuned to them. They are the paradox of accessibility and inaccessibility. Present but ungraspable, giving yet retaining, compassionate yet critical. To know them fully is impossible for most. To attempt is to confront the limits of perception and patience. And yet, they do not close off indiscriminately. They offer guidance, presence, and insight selectively, calibrated to the readiness, integrity, and depth of those they encounter. Every offering is intentional, every withdrawal strategic, every reflection precise. They are not governed by fear, desire, or social expectation. Their actions are aligned with principles, insight, and perception of universal patterns. To the uninitiated, their calm may appear detached, their decisions cold. But beneath this exterior lies a mind perpetually calculating, weighing, and integrating. A mind attuned to both shadow and light, chaos and order, potential and consequence. They exist in a liminal space, operating on frequencies that are simultaneously human and otherworldly. Their presence is magnetic, not by design, but by consequence. People are drawn to them without understanding why, compelled by subtle signals that resonate with awareness and authenticity. Yet proximity does not equate to possession. The INFJ maintains sovereignty over their essence, sharing it only with those who demonstrate alignment, readiness, and perception. They are selective because the reflection they offer can heal or harm, illuminate or destabilize, depending on the observer's capacity for truth. To encounter an INFJ is to confront a version of reality that is rarely acknowledged. They perceive both the seen and the unseen, the spoken and the unspoken. They operate within, above, and alongside the currents of human thought and emotion, navigating a labyrinth that is invisible yet undeniable. Their wisdom is precise, their empathy acute, their insight penetrating. And all of it is delivered through subtlety, presence, and the unshakable weight of observation. Their solitude is deliberate. They retreat not out of fear or disdain, but out of necessity. The intensity of their perception, the breadth of their insight, and the gravity of their reflection require space for integration and recalibration. In these periods of withdrawal, they refine their inner architecture, observe patterns unseen, and prepare to re-engage with the world with precision, clarity, and subtle but profound influence. They are guardians of equilibrium, architects of insight, and mirrors of the unspoken. To interact with them is to confront oneself, unshielded. To misunderstand them is to risk being unsettled, exposed, and irrevocably changed. They are neither cruel nor indulgent. They are precise, measured, and unyielding. Their presence teaches what many cannot endure, that truth is heavier than illusion, and reflection is more transformative than comfort. They are INFJs, balanced, sacred, shadowed, healers and destroyers, mirrors and prophets, storms and sanctuaries. They reveal without malice, illuminate without embellishment, and endure without compromise. To know them is to meet yourself fully. To misunderstand them is to feel the weight of a force that cannot be contained. They are not human, yet they walk among humans. They are not bound by ordinary perception, yet they interact with it with deliberate consequence. They are mirrors, and in their reflection, the world confronts itself, inevitably and profoundly. They carry the weight of perception like a blade, honed through experience, solitude, and unyielding introspection. Every thought, every gesture, every reaction is calibrated, not for approval, not for acceptance, but for alignment with the principles they have painstakingly discerned. They are not swayed by whim, by flattery, or by fear. They act from an inner compass that points only toward truth, clarity, and integrity. Those who attempt to manipulate, to bend, or to dilute their presence encounter only the quiet inevitability of reflection, a mirror that is precise, unflinching, and immovable. The INFJ understands timing as acutely as they understand perception. They know that insight, guidance, and truth are most potent when delivered with precision. Premature revelation can wound, misaligned influence can be ignored, and misinterpreted counsel can breed chaos. And so they wait, they observe, they calculate. Silence is not absence, it is preparation. Withdrawal is not weakness, it is strategy. In these intervals, they consolidate energy, integrate experience, and refine their ability to operate within both seen and unseen currents. They are architects of emotional and psychic alchemy. Pain becomes clarity, observation becomes strategy, compassion becomes precise intervention. The INFJ does not act indiscriminately. They act in accordance with the resonance of truth and the readiness of the observer. Those who are unprepared for this truth recoil. Those who are aligned are transformed. And the transformation is subtle yet profound, often imperceptible until its consequences ripple outward like a tidal force that shapes life irrevocably. They are simultaneously vessels and mirrors, absorbing the shadow and light of the world, holding it with a stoic grace that is both humbling and terrifying. They do not seek admiration, nor do they crave influence. They exist as calibrators of reality, as agents of reflection, as sentinels of inner law. Every encounter, every interaction, every silence carries significance because they perceive significance in all things. The ordinary is never merely ordinary. It is an opportunity for observation, understanding, and revelation. Their solitude is sacred, not merely personal. It is the space in which shadow and light are reconciled, where insight is integrated, and where the self is tempered. Loneliness is a myth to them, for they are never alone. Their mind, their perception, their consciousness is a vast landscape populated with the echoes of experience, the architectures of thought, and the currents of understanding that span beyond ordinary comprehension. They are conduits of inevitability. Events unfold, people act, and consequences arrive not by chance, but as a response to a landscape shaped subtly by their perception. This is not manipulation in the ordinary sense. It is alignment with the natural resonance of truth. Those who are attuned to this flow may perceive it as guidance, inspiration, or illumination. Those who are not may only feel disturbance, unease, or the subtle compulsion to adjust. And the INFJ remains unchanged, sovereign, and inviolable. Their empathy is both gift and weapon. It can heal, illuminate, and nurture, but it can also expose, unsettle, and dismantle. It is applied with discretion, precision, and insight. They do not offer comfort lightly, nor do they tolerate deception. Their compassion is a reflection of the readiness of the observer, a measurement of alignment with truth, and an acknowledgement of the potential for growth or transformation. To misalign oneself with an INFJ is not to be punished, but to be reflected, inexorably, mercilessly, and inescapably. They are paradox incarnate, simultaneously deeply present and profoundly detached, capable of love, yet impervious to manipulation, nurturing, yet immune to control. To engage with them fully is to encounter the totality of consciousness, shadow and light, potential and limitation, pain and insight, all laid bare in a reflection that cannot be evaded. They do not yield to the superficial, nor do they compromise for the convenient. Their presence is the standard by which truth is measured, silently and unrelentingly. They are rare, almost mythical in their intensity and depth. They walk among humans, yet their existence transcends ordinary perception. Their intellect is vast, their intuition precise, and their moral architecture unyielding. They hold within them the capacity for profound healing, terrifying insight, and inevitable reflection. To misread them is to court disorientation. To underestimate them is to court revelation. The INFJ is a sentinel of the unspoken, a guardian of perception, a mirror of truth. They operate within a landscape of shadow and light that few can navigate. Their silence speaks louder than words. Their withdrawal resonates more powerfully than presence. Their observation shapes reality in subtle yet undeniable ways. To attempt to bend them to expectation, to coerce their insight, or to dilute their presence is to confront the immutable architecture of consciousness they embody. They are not human in the conventional sense. They are architects of internal worlds, navigators of unseen currents, custodians of shadow and light. They do not exist for entertainment, comfort, or approval. They exist as instruments of reflection, alignment, and inevitability. And in that existence, they carry both the burden and the liberation of unparalleled insight. They are mirrors, yes, but mirrors of essence, not vanity. They reflect not what is convenient, but what is real. Those who approach with honesty, integrity, and awareness are illuminated. Those who approach with deceit, avoidance, or manipulation are exposed, unmasked, and inevitably confronted with their own shadow. To exist in their orbit is to be measured, tested, and transformed, whether one is aware of it or not. They are INFJs, rare, sacred, dangerous, precise. They are healers and destroyers, mirrors and catalysts, storms and sanctuaries. Their presence demands honesty, their silence demands reflection, and their insight demands confrontation with reality. They do not chase, they do not plead, they do not compromise. They exist. And in their existence, truth is revealed, shadow is illuminated, and the observer is compelled to meet themselves in ways that are profound, challenging, and irreversible. And so, in the end, to witness an INFJ, to encounter the rare mirror they hold, is to confront a force that is ineffable yet undeniable. One cannot manipulate it, avoid it, or diminish it. One can only reflect upon it, integrate what is revealed, and emerge, transformed or recoiling, depending on readiness. They are not human in the ordinary sense. They are myth made manifest, a phenomenon of perception, a sentinel of shadow and light. To endure their presence is to endure truth. To be guided by them is to be transformed. To ignore them is to face the subtle, persistent gravity of absence and reflection. They are INFJs. They are mirrors. And in that reflection, the world sees itself as it is, merciless, profound, and infinite. The mirror does not forgive. It does not flinch. It does not fade. And neither can those who meet it. They are INFJs. They are mirrors, and in the unflinching encounter with them, one learns the ultimate lesson: the world, the self, and the shadow within cannot be escaped, and the depth of one's own consciousness is both the crucible and the liberation. The mirror is eternal. The reflection is relentless. The truth is undeniable, and the one who holds this mirror, the INFJ, waits, silent, sovereign, and unyielding.